Ma, Kashlaka Chukma, Taholchifot, Ihotana, Chukashasaya, Michachapasaya, Gabrielino Tongva, Olakot, Yagni Mako, Apisahanchi, Bi Kanatoka, Hachimanoli. Greetings, everyone. I welcomed you in the Chickasaw language. My name is Shannon Speed, and I'm Chickasaw and Choctaw by descent and a citizen of the Chickasaw Nation. And I have the great honor of serving as the director of the American Indian Studies Center at UCLA. I acknowledged the Gabrielino Tongva people as the traditional land caretakers of Tongva, which encompasses much of what is, for the moment, being called Los Angeles, and as well as the South Channel Islands, and upon which the American Indian Studies Center and UCLA reside. This means, of course, that we are guests on these lands and should be conscious at all times of our responsibilities in fostering and maintaining right relations as guests. We're holding this event in honor of California Native American Day. This is actually the first event we've held in celebration of this day because usually our semester has not begun yet, and so nobody is on campus. But this year, the virtual format, as we work remotely, has allowed us to hold the event. So we're really excited to host these amazing California Native poets, Emily Clarke from the Cahuilla Tribe, and Kelly Caballero and Megan Dorame from the Tongva Tribe. While we host them for this event in a more true sense, they host us as the original peoples of these unceded lands. Hashlakachukma, it's good that you're here. Your presence is a gift to us all, so welcome. Chukmashki Yakoke.
Thank you, Shannon. My name is Pamela J. Peters. I am the Operations and Event Coordinator of the UCLA American Indian Studies Center. As a Dene woman living here on Tongva, otherwise known as Los Angeles, I too would like to pay my respects to the Tongva ancestors, the elders, and all the relatives, relations, past, present, and emerging. I felt it's important to acknowledge our tribal relatives' homeland, and I understand I'm a visitor here as my homeland is the Navajo Nation. So welcome to our California Native Voices Through Poetry event. Based on the response from our previous events, we have decided to allow today's event to continue beyond the 1 hour we had initially advertised so that everyone can ask questions. We hope you can stay, but we understand if you're not able to. So a little bit about California Native American Day. Since 1968, California has celebrated the rich cultures of California tribes every year on the 4th Friday of September. There are more than 109 federally recognized tribal nations in California, plus many more who are not federally recognized. The state holiday serves not only to recognize tribal people, but also to expand knowledge of California's tribes, cultures, histories, and heritage. For the first time, as Shannon said, we are hosting, UCLA American Indian Studies is hosting this event to commemorate California Native American Day. And we wanted to feature some of the local poets' voices here in Southern California. Today we present this event not only to showcase the work of 3 amazing poets from Southern California, but also to celebrate and learn about the rich California tribal cultures, history, and heritage. This event is about participation, providing a platform where viewers like yourself can hear about the remarkable work that these 3 talented poets do to preserve their culture and learn about the tribal people of Los Angeles through their poetry and spoken word. I'm excited to share their astonishing poetry. I presented their work in the past and was moved by their words, and I hope you are too. First, we will start with poet Megan Dorame. Thereafter, I will introduce our second poet, Emily Clarke, and then we will follow with our last reading by Kelly Caballero. All three will then join us virtually on the stage for a brief discussion, after which you can ask questions via the chat box. Also, feel free to use the snap your fingers if something catches you, and feel free to use the clap option as well. So I'm going to go into introducing Megan Dorame. Okay. Megan Dorame is a Tongva poet who lives and writes in Santa Ana, California. She holds a BA in anthropology from the University of Oklahoma and works to reclaim and revitalize the Tongva language. Megan is a 2020 PEN Emerging Voice Fellow and has been nominated twice for the Pushcart Prize. Her work has appeared in Dryland, The Offing, and many among others. Megan is an editor at the poet journal, The Night Heron Barks, and she is currently working on her first poetry collection. Here is Megan.
Hi everyone, thank you for being here. I'm gonna introduce myself in the Tongva language. Miha netwanyane Megan Dorame, none Tongvet, honukvitam kime washna, momwa michepar, aweshkoneha, ekwaneha. So hi, my name is Megan Dorame. I am Tongva. We're indigenous to the LA Basin. My ancestors are from the village Washna, which is where Playa Vista is today, right near the Bayona wetlands. I am so happy to be here. Thank you to Pamela Peters for inviting me and for organizing this event. And thank you so much to UCLA American Indian Studies Center for hosting this event. So I wanted to share a series of poems that I've been working on. I call them the salinity poems, but the title of the series is called What Blood is the Salinity of Salt Water. These poems are about overcoming trauma, both historical and ongoing. The ongoing trauma that I'm zeroing in on here is climate change, and specifically its impact on the abalone population, which has been declining. The presence of abalone throughout the poems is symbolic. So, if the abalone cannot thrive and multiply in the ocean, then I'm going to let them thrive and multiply on the page by writing about them. And you'll notice that the abalone in image and in spirit is woven into this negotiation with motherhood and becoming a mother. These poems are a real confrontation with my own fear about bringing a child into a world during a time that can at times feel a little bleak. These poems are very much about a woman's right to choose not to be a mother, and at the same time they're also about wanting to be a mother and being faced with infertility. These are both circumstances that I've experienced in my life, and I think as I was writing these poems, I was in essence just digging and digging, like mining really, to find some semblance of hope. These poems are me really seeking a brighter future to look forward to, because I know it's during these times of unrest when it's most important for us to imagine and reimagine a better future for everyone. So here are the salinity poems. What blood is the salinity of salt water? Salinity, salted earth. What currents the veins is soil, soiled. Soil dissolved in sea is a tired drowning. The blood tug, the tangled root of dispossession sinks. The anchor, a ghost mass, the sum of theft. This Hollywood homeland glistens as a shell shelled. What shell will thrive in tides that rise warm? The tides that lick the shore. The shoring longs for morning. The morning reflects in wombs like mine that are salted. Salinity, dreamtime, blood. What is sown in blood, bound by conquest? The white walls of the mission are no place to be or birth. The one window is a tea of pine pitch. The thirst calls cells to safety. Cells remember past foothills. The feet bolt. What falls between the legs is salt water. Salinity, abalone as amulet. String through breath holes strung on the porch as streamers of protection. Shells clack, singing away spirits who seek the hollow in us all. Salinity, inherited drowning. What future exists where concrete river mouths speak only in dust? What future exists where the Pacific rises tepid, the absence of fragments abound, the final acorn ground, the final abalone plucked, suckled? What future exists where auburn skies tell of fires made to hop freeways? We mask ourselves from smoke. The virus spreads, rapid, rabid, biting the same soft pearls that ate my grandmother's lungs. What futures exist where we progress despite our withering feet? What futures exist where a baby is buoyed by salt water? Salinity, history repeats. Fisher my pelvis with a tender knife, shuck the unborn from shell, the precision of wrist digs, exposing a home for little feet, souls the size of dewdrops, prolific pulses plunge, a rhythmic descent from body of soil to tide grave. Salinity, submerge. To rest on paper sheets is to dream underwater. The suction of undertow poles, firm grasp the nurse's hand, fluorescent lights, the focus of the faceless doctor. Breath held, the suction of gut pulls, my contradiction, my choice made. The bodies flail, the battle beneath the breakers. The instruction to stand, weak feet move, no trail of blood on the tile behind me. The recovery room is lit by a wall of windows. There, light gleams through green, the kelp, a forest, witnesses, my futile fishing for not wanting, my futile fishing for wanting to be a mother. Salinity, regret brought. My biological clock ticks on. What is it about the flesh of the foot, its callous waves, muscle attachment to shell, the paddle lags? A mollusk's pace will swim me anywhere but to embryo. Salinity, abalone as reflection. Look into my shucked shell, see the past or future. Memory transports vision through space and time to reanimate the sacred. Salinity, oral history. The Virgin's presence, a pulse in the sea foam. A shell overturned was her seat. Pink palms, she scraped spines from a pile of prickly pears. Salinity, abalone as body. Shored, shape-shifting, the spine unfurls into the shell of a red abalone. The apex, a shoulder blade, a display of strength, the fascia calcified, counterfeit, the most prominent strata a garnet scar, the indelible blot of bloodline dropped, desire bisected by the gristle split of cervix. Salinity, listen. Abalone sings. Her voice is wind through breath holes, and when worn, her voice is movement that clacks the shells in tandem with the body. Salinity, abalone as path. Respiratory holes placed on the face, a shell mask of sunset cups the mouth. The air we breathe will be siphoned through the luster. Salinity portal. Neuron channels unravel shame's face into sandstone striations. It is time and wind that weathers the stone soft. To lurch from such a lesion, the larva frees from the decay it cleaves to root in the false ribs. Breath lifts there. The breadth of comet tail orbits the spiral patina of possibility. Salinity possibility. An entrance, an aura flare in the right eye, a tumble toward rocky shores rerouted by updraft. Recalibration to cliffed coastline, the feet land with vision expanded into alternative fields of poppies. Salinity repair. Gilded centers spread paper white, garland of roe cracked into cast iron. With no glow of yolk, the belly waits, the water breaks, swallow the memory clot to dissolve the nausea with the tide. The light seek is a dive to unstitch the pearl from the throat. To speak is to suture the bleed. What hides in the shadow of the teeth endeavors to be released. Salinity forward. What salve spreads on the wounded to multiply? The pearls march to the clack of shells to multiply. The shells embraced by flesh will multiply, clinging to concrete coast to multiply. The soil a rookery in us all. As soil, we sing the future from the salt water. Alweshkonecha. Thank you so much for listening.
That was amazing. Thank you so much, Megan. I'm going to go right into our second poet, Emily. Emily Clarke is a Cahuilla Native American writer, student, beat artist, activist, court age instructor, and traditional birds dancer. Emily's work has been featured in journals such as News from Native California, Four Winds Literary Journal, Anti-Heroin Cheek, and Hooch Review. She has been a featured reader at events such as Indigenous Now, Palm Springs Art Museum Second Sundays, and UCLA's Environmentalists of Color Climate Justice Forum. Currently, Emily is studying creative writing at UC Riverside. Her writing explores the modern Cahuilla identity, female anatomy, social justice, and human intimacy. Please welcome Emily Clarke.
Miyokuen, everyone. First of all, happy California Native American Day. And then before I get started with my reading, I just want to thank you all so much for being here and give my gratitude to Pamela for putting this event together. And I also want to give a huge thank you to the UCLA American Indian Studies Center. They've been hosting so many important virtual events, including this one. And it's really been great to be able to tune into a few of those and to see the impact that Native artists and scholars are still making despite this current COVID situation. So, as Pamela said, I'm from the Cahuilla Reservation, which is a very rural reservation up in the mountains near Anza, California. And I grew up on the reservation. I moved here when I was about 4 years old. And you'll notice that a lot of my work includes small details that originate from having a Cahuilla perspective. So in my opinion, a huge issue within the Cahuilla community, as well as within the Native American community as a whole, is erasure, whether that be large scale or small scale erasure. So I can't even tell you like how many times I've met someone who didn't know that Native Americans still existed or who had never heard of the Cahuilla people, despite oftentimes being on Cahuilla land and occupying Cahuilla land. So however, although much of my work depicts erasure and this sort of like non-native ignorance, the Cahuilla people are still here today and are thriving. And so that's why I'm gonna begin my reading with a poem called Muchim Call, which translates to "We are still here" in the Cahuilla language. I thought it was appropriate for today. All right, so Muchim Call, we are still here. Muchim Call, we are still here. We are still here, us noble savages, us heathen redskins. We are still here, us scalped heads, us cannibal animals. We are still here, us wounded knee zombies, us dug up museum specimens. Muchim Call, we are still here, us Christopher Columbus trophies, us broken tokens. Muchim Call, we are still here, us erased faces, us starved, hanged, and beaten bodies. Muchim Call, we are still here, we are still here. Muchim Call, us human beings, us generations of germination. Muchim Call, us beating hearts. All right, so this next one is called Reservation Required, and it was written years ago during my sophomore year of high school, and it just kind of has like grown with me and went through multiple revision stages, and today it serves as a sort of rejection to the stereotypes that many natives face in their day-to-day lives. And I do mention Edward Curtis in this poem, so if his name doesn't ring a bell, he was a photographer in the 19th century who was famous for these awful portraits of Native Americans in which he dressed the subjects up in clothing and regalia that he personally deemed Native American in order to fuel his own authenticity. However, oftentimes the regalia was nowhere near authentic to the tribal customs of the individual that he was photographing, so I do mention that towards the end of the poem. Reservation Required. In this version, we are baby mamas. In this version, we are Disney Pocahontas. In this version, we are panhandling on the corner of spirituality and alcoholism. We keep at least one long loaded shotgun in every plateless car. In this version, we are not brown enough and we are not white enough. Our voices are replaced with the mechanical cha-chings of neon slot machines. In this version, we are Kmart Halloween costumes, a plastic Coachella trend atop the sunburned heads in which we have never once been given a second thought. In this version, we are the minority of minorities. We are the tokens of academia whose names do not live on any professor's quick to dismiss tongue. But I don't want to be your Edward Curtis photograph. I don't want to go down in history just another specimen, a female body left to rot like her ancestors' regimen. So in my version, we are static. We are sound and sinew woven together by wrinkled brown thumbs. In my version, we are bone-white doves. We are scaled and goat-eyed. In my version, we are people. We are standing side by side along Earth's backbone, dancing to a song sung to us under the breath of the wind. All right. So before I start reading this next piece, I want to give a shout out to Katie Ford, who I believe is in the audience. I took Katie's Anatomy of Poetry course last quarter, and she really pushed me to explore form and to restrict myself. And as difficult as it was, this piece came from that sort of work. And I also mentioned Luis J. Rodriguez in this piece. He was the 2014 LA Poet Laureate, and I've been fortunate enough to take a few of his workshops, and during one of them, he gave me this piece of advice that has always stuck with me, so I wanted to include it in this piece. And this one is called Ancestry. This mauled thing wakes again, blisters me below the belly button, names me purebred and teaches me the art of surrender. My pale breasts hang like mission bells, the pink of the nipples no different than the religion they shoved down our throats. Still, I prefer smallpox blankets and Thanksgiving corn. History rewrites us like throwaway drafts, every day a new metaphor, every day a new motive. History still grabs us by the throats, shows us our place even today. Luis J. Rodriguez says, tap into your bone, and I knock on my kneecap like a door, wait for some quick at the lip Indian to answer and tell me my name, tell me my story. My skeleton is embedded with the whispered stories of my ancestors, the last screams of the massacred children from Wounded Knee. My skeleton drips pipeline oil and alcohol. Maybe I belong to 1492. I can see myself standing tall with my ancestors bathed in red. Maybe I belong to the resistance, fighting for an existence destined to be dead. So this next one is called Let's Make an American Indian Theme Park, and it was inspired by Danez Smith's Dinosaurs in the Hood. Danez is an incredible poet and spoken word artist, and his poem Dinosaurs in the Hood, he imagines an African-American dinosaur movie and like goes through all the things that it should and shouldn't include. So after drawing inspiration from that, I wrote my piece called Let's Make an American Indian Theme Park, in which I imagine what it would be like to have like a Knott's Berry Farm sort of thing, just Indian. So, you know, like for all those people who act like tourists around natives and native communities. Let's make an American Indian theme park, after Danez Smith, Dinosaurs in the Hood. You can search for craft store arrowheads in a man-made mud hole. You can dress up as a sexy Indian maiden or a noble Indian warrior. You can dance to every kind of drum you can imagine. You can take a selfie with a buffalo and a wolf and a teepee and an Appaloosa wild horse and a giant Pocahontas statue and a real life shaman. You can even be given your Indian name if you pay enough. You can hand feed a starving Indian boy. You can bring buckets of water to a little Indian girl living on a tiny replica reservation that still doesn't have plumbing. You can choose which drunk Indian man you want to send to rehab and which drunk Indian man you want to send to jail. You can choose whether or not hired actors playing cops rape and kill a Native woman, or if they just rape her and leave her on the side of the road. You can relive the first Thanksgiving complete with animatronic Indian heads on stakes. You can weave your own smallpox blanket. You can discover Indian bones in the wall of a mission. You can take over any part of the park you like. You can call it yours. You can have it all. All right, so the next one is called Salvation. And it discusses missing and murdered Indigenous women, which is a huge epidemic within the Native community. There are thousands of Native women and girls who are missing right now as I speak, and the media has failed for years and years to bring light to this tragedy. And the women who are murdered and raped and who go missing are more often than not the victims of police violence. And you don't hear about it in the news. So that's what this piece is talking about. Salvation. 1 in 3 Indigenous women will be raped in our lifetimes, and I can hear that clock tick, tick, ticking. Thousands of Indigenous women are missing as I speak. as my pen scratches on this paper, and I can't smell fear like a shark or dog, but I know how it feels to wonder if your life has already been written out, to wonder if the inside of your throat or belly has been inscribed with the map you are forced to follow, with the placebo statistics your people are forced to swallow. Maybe this is all just a dream. I have heard white people joke about that. Maybe this is all just some elaborate performance art, and maybe at the end we will all stand and clap and wipe away the water that drip, drip, drips from our tired eyes like juice leaks from strange fruit. And maybe then we can all go home, go back to a world where we are not the punchline, where we are not an ignored headline, go back to a world where we are the ones who get saved. Okay, so this next one is probably one of my favorite poems that I've been working on lately. Before the pandemic, I spent a lot of time in my car because for me, it's an 1.5-hour drive one way to UC Riverside. So during the 3 hours a day that I spent on the freeway going to school and like back home from school, I saw a lot of roadkill. And as weird as it sounds, that roadkill was the inspiration for this poem, which is coincidentally called Roadkill. So I'll get right into it. At first, it is a bloody burlap sack in the center of the 215 South. Its corners flap like wings as each vehicle pummels it deeper into the asphalt. Then, when it is my turn to straddle it with the wheels of my car, it is fur. A mountain lion, decapitated, or scalped if you prefer, like my ancestors, those heathen redskins, a mountain lion, only a thin mass of hair and pulp and maybe paw. And the white boy in class with the feminist MacBook sticker asks me if I am purebred. What he means is pure-blooded, as if that is any less of a wound. And I say I am not a dog or a horse, and he laughs like my survival is a joke we share. I am an ancient artifact, a zoo animal, and Bigfoot when you discover me, when you discover my native blood, like I was yours to unearth, like I was yours to claim and remake. But when you learn that my mom comes from a porch full of white people down south, when you learn that the houses on my reservation have running water and enough power to make Christmas lights twinkle year round, you are disappointed that you didn't meet a real Indian. Blood quantum is the weapon you use to silence me. Blood quantum is the stake your ancestors mounted our heads upon. Blood quantum is the 3 owls I saw this morning, white and feathered and taloned like angels, lifeless against the asphalt. I thought I heard their calls as I drove past, like laughter or groaning or song. I thought I heard them whisper from their paved gravel graves. I thought I heard them say my name. Okay. So this is the second to last piece that I have for you today, and it's called Blue Lives Matter. So I wrote this when the George Floyd protests were going on, and there were those massive groups of people just ignorantly throwing around the term Blue Lives Matter, which I'm not even going to get into during this reading. I'm just going to read my poem, but it reminded me a lot of when my dad and I traveled to the No DAPL protest at the Standing Rock Reservation in 2016. And there's this moment one night when we saw these little red dots in the hills above us and realized that there were weapons ready to be used on us. And this poem kind of encompasses everything I just explained and has really been brewing since 2016, but I think it's still very relevant right now. Blue Lives Matter, Standing Rock 2016. In the midst of teepee smoke and song, the women and I march to the front lines like brides to their grooms. Oil machines and men in black armor wait for us on the reservation edge, ready to release the dogs, the tear gas, the rubber bullets, and the pressure washers. Black is the night sky as our people meet theirs. We kneel in front of their steel-toed boots, us women waiting for the sting of privilege. In the far distance, we can see the buildings of the nearby town, Maybe if we look close enough, we will catch a glimpse of a gentrified neighborhood, a segregated Walmart, a white hand filling a glass with cold, clean water. Maybe we will see the hand-drawn signs plastered on the sides of houses and gas stations, the signs that read "Blue Lives Matter." Still, we will kneel in solidarity with the land and all she gives us. We kneel for our daughters and their daughters. In the hills behind us, hundreds of tiny red dots glow, dancing until they find the flat of our backs. Okay. So this next one is going to be the last one that I read today. And so before I begin, I just want to thank you all again for your attendance and thank Pamela and the UCLA American Indian Studies Center again for hosting. This last one is a bit of a harsher poem, not that the previous 7 were not, but it discusses the California mission system. So many California natives, and myself specifically, often have a very strained relationship with religion due to the enslavement and genocide our people endured on behalf of the Catholic mission system. And so religion was used as a justification for violence, and that's really what this last poem is about. So let me get one more drink of water. It's called Mission Indians. This history is branded onto our backs like cattle. This history is cut into the flat soles of our feet with an inlay pocket knife. You tell us to get over it, tell us that what happened back then is over and done with, but I can still hear it if I listen hard enough. I can still smell the blood mixed into mud and reborn as brick. I want to ask if you can see them. Can you see the cat-o'-nine tails woven like baskets, hide and barbed wire beating against the scarred backs of Indian men, the Indian men who thought of themselves as people, thought they could sneak away to hunt for their starving families without being punished. Their sisters and brothers are watching the blood splatter onto unshaven Spaniard cheeks while they pack mud into bricks with bruised fingers. Their sisters and brothers are watching while they prepare to build another prison, another slaughterhouse, another house of worship where they will fall to their scabbed knees and ask a God they do not know to forgive them for being born Indians. Can you see them, the celibate priests with their mouths drooling like dogs during Lent, hungry for an Indian woman, hungry for the privilege they already own? For a communion cracker and that sip of wine, no less bitter than the lessons they plan to teach these Indian women. I wonder if they know how many abortions were endured behind church doors. I wonder if they know how much blood was spilled onto cold church floors. I wonder, was God there? Was God there to hold the hands of the Indian women while they bled? Was God there to grasp the whip in his fist before it sunk its teeth into one more Indian man? Was God there to embrace the souls of the 37,000 dead? Was God there? Was God there back then? That's the end. Achima, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Emily. That was powerful, extremely powerful. Thank you. I'm going to introduce our last poet. Her name is Kelly Caballero. She is Tongva. She's a singer, songwriter, performer, poet, and jeweler. Her body of work focuses primarily on highlighting the multifaceted and complex lives of Indigenous people born and raised in urban settings. Hosting workshops, speaking on panels, and performing are some of the ways in which Kelly works to educate people on intersecting identities, history, and current achievements and struggles of California Native nations. Here is Kelly.
Meha, Awishkaneha, Ikoaha, Netwanyane, Kelly Caballero. I'm super happy and grateful to be here. Thank you. A little bit about my poetry. As a singer-songwriter, I find music inspires me even in my written word and poetry. And these poems, these first 2 that I'm going to introduce, are contrasts. One is about the beauty of sound, and the second is going to be the absence of sound. And what happens when music or melody leaves. So this first poem, called Orchestra of Night, is inspired by that moment where the sun has set and light is leaving the sky, the moon's rising, and all of a sudden there's this just quiet moment. And in this moment is music. So without further ado, Orchestra of Night. The moon rises, drawing daylight's curtain, revealing an audience of stars. Witness, the conductor of the orchestra of night. It begins. Night's breath sweeps through the tall grass. Sweet smell of earth becomes the air, the chatter of glimmering leaves, a prelude to the symphony of crickets bowing a melody centuries old. The river frogs bellow, resounding from near and far, hushed only by the percussion of rabbits in the sagebrush. Bring me to tears the coyotes crescendo, the river hums. From the trees the night birds sing, the valley succumbs. Rapture under silver moonlight. Rhapsody of dusk, the orchestra fades. Silence. Stillness. The nightshade blooms, a standing ovation for the orchestra of night. Next poem, Oh Melody. Melody said goodbye to me over time. The mornings were quiet, the evenings empty. The nightbird found a new window to inspire melody, knew my melancholy, but this was too much, like a day with no breeze. Stagnant stench of sadness permeated melody. Looking at the blank page and seeing myself, melody slipped away. Maybe melody is singing to my dad, I am without. I curl up in the spaces between each letter, trying to find the notes, wrong paper. I dance to the sound of tears raining, ink to tree. Grief scratched hoarse my throat, trying to find some formation of tongue, teeth, mouth that would ring. I wrote a song with no melody. Oh, melody. And thank you. Those are just two poems that play to my singer-songwriter side. And I just want to bring attention that nature is so much more than that word encompasses. The beauty of creation is in all of the things that comprises what we see our natural world around us. And so that first poem I just love so much. I feel like it gives spirit to the night and the moon. Another thing I like to play with in my poetry is my Catholic identity. I was born and raised Catholic, and it's still, I don't know if it haunts me or if it's just, I don't know what it is. And in my poetry, I'm still trying to find out how I feel about it. It's interesting in my mind because on one end, I obviously know how Catholicism came to be within Indigenous communities. It was forced upon us. It was a violent religion, and it has caused great turmoil within California Indigenous communities. But I've also been born and raised Catholic, and it's been a religion that's been in my family for generations since they brought it here. So it's such a complicated and complex part of myself that I'm forever trying to understand, and maybe I never will, but I will always write poems. So this first poem is called Mission Bells. Mission bells toll, a resounding we got you. A seismic remembrance courses through me, blood like water, white-capped, memories surfacing through my skin, raising feathered follicles, reaching for resurrection. Mission bells toll, ancestors like wolves on the ready, clawing to be released from my flesh, iris made of flames, watching the war between people of the earth and those who kill to claim it. Mission bells toll, white clay hands rest upon my shoulders, pressing my feet into wet red earth. Remember creation place. From the nucleus of past millennia, first people. Mission bells toll, we got you. A cross casts its shadow, the hawk circles above, words bubble hot on my tongue, ancient magma, solid earth. Anangare ekwawun, we are still here. So that was the Tongva word or phrase for we are still here. It just sounds way more powerful to me in traditional Tongva language. And when I speak it, I don't know, it has more of a weight to it. The next poem is titled Good Catholic Girl. I did attend Catholic school. I still know all my prayers and whatnot. But as I've gotten older and I've, you know, become more connected to my indigeneity and my natural surroundings, the ocean is where I go to pray and have ceremony and where I feel closest to Creator. And that's true for a lot of California coastal indigenous people. We are saltwater people. So this is Good Catholic Girl. The ocean is my religion. Eulogize the one true mother, sculptor of stones and of hearts, giver of life, guardian of wayward souls. Born of immaculate conception, I swim in the sanctuary of creation. The water redeems, the salt purifies. I am anointed by ocean mist. I am devoted to the mercurial current that giveth and taketh. We must give thanks. I kneel before hallowed waves. I pray for peace on earth and peace within, and the ocean accepts. This is what I said when the priest said I should pray like a good Catholic girl. And this next poem is just me playing around with identity and everything that I am and everything that is California's history, the multiple waves of genocide from the Spanish to the Mexican Rancho period to the gold rush and European expansion, and how all of those have influenced my identity and someone whose families have lived here for generations and generations and generations. So this is I Am. Mountains, valleys, oceans, oak trees, sagebrush, seaweed, coyote, panther, bear, heron, otter, dolphin, saltwater, sun, sand, rivers meeting oceans, paradise of the West, sailor, convent, intruder, conquistador, padre, missionary, savage, gentile, neophyte, stolen, slave, dead, Christ lover, Indian killer, quiche, missions, pueblos, Mexicano, ranchero, caballero, gold, treaties, gone, cement, city, trapped, home, honor, here, emerging, budding, blooming, returning, becoming, embracing, California's daughter. That is I Am. And that one has changed quite a few times, as so do I, personal ideas and identities. What I wanted to explore with my poetry was more personal, I guess, in the sense what pertains to my identity and just regular life. This one is titled Home. Mothers have choked more dreams than dream catchers. Fathers have left more homes than chimney smoke. Daughters' hearts wear more cracks than the windows in winter. Sons carry more rage than the walls who have seen it all. We were willows meant for ceremony. Instead, we were trees cut too soon and tossed into the flames, keeping warm the house that trauma built. So keeping these short and sweet. This next one I dedicate to all people going through a breakup. And not just any breakup, but one of those breakups where it has to be the last time, the very last time. And that is the most difficult one because you know it is final. So I offer this poem. Maybe it'll ease you, maybe it'll give you anxiety, but it's called Severing Ceremony. Since your day of breaking came and your beloved is no longer, hands trembling, take the blade, brace yourself and sever. Wonder where your innocence went and why spirits taste of stone. The piece of them that is you, you'll cut and you'll pull them from your bones. The days to come are morning days, days to lick your wounds. But gather strength, the sweats tonight, and then we'll dance under the moon. So that's for you guys if you need a little encouragement, ceremony, sweats, prayer, you'll get through it. This next poem that I would like to share, I had shared a portion of it on my Instagram regarding the fires that have devastated the West Coast. So I shared this first part, but there was actually 2 other parts, so 3 parts in total that were completely separate trains of thought that I tried to weave together in a sense. So it might change, but I wanted to share it with you for the people that are here and who have read that poem on my Instagram. It's called California Fire. Fire doesn't give a shit about your gender reveal party, your private property, your no trespassing, no parking, stay on the trail signs. Do not touch, take, leave no trace practice. Fire does what I wish I could do. Take land back. We have gone beyond the ignition point. We are the fuel feeding the flame. We created the tinder box, snuggled in and lit the match. Self-immolation for no cause other than I, me, my. Now we all must suffer the rage of a lamb left untended, the fury of a mother whose children were taken. Give them back to the land. Land whispered to fire, let it burn. Her breath pushed the embers on. Red sun watched, it must be done. Fire wept in ash, when will they learn? The trees bowed in agreement. The animals knelt in sacrifice. The birds carried fire's message. You cannot continue to take from that which you do not have. The land was never yours. So 3 completely separate trains of thought, but the ultimate idea there and what it all kind of comes down to is traditional environmental knowledge, indigenous leadership when it comes to climate justice and environmental justice, put indigenous people at the table and let them make the decisions and call the shots, and we need to be supported in that aspect. For too long has it been mismanaged, untended, this concept of wilderness that has completely destroyed our homelands because there was no wild. The entire outdoors was tended and cared for by indigenous people. And yes, there was fires, but it wasn't at this catastrophic level that we're seeing today. So if you take anything away from this poem or my reading, please prioritize traditional, environmental, indigenous knowledge. And hopefully we can see a better future for our landscape and for us in return. I want to leave you guys with one of my favorite poems. It's kind of the longer one, but it's titled California, and it's me in a poem. And the poem itself is a reflection of, imagine an ancestor who is alive today, and that ancestor is coming in and out of my reality. And so it's back and forth between me and an ancestor who's living through me and my perception of California. And my singing and songwriting kind of kick in. It's a little bit more rhythmic and rhymey, which I think is fun. I am California, and California is me before California even had a name, before rivers ran dry, and before mountains were claimed. Some would say I stand as rigid as the Sierras and speak words that cut like the great glaciers that birthed them. I recoil at the hands of man because I carry a story within me, not mine, but a memory from the land. Before cities, before skyscrapers, before plastics and pollutions, before man came to these lands with heads inflated with grandeur and perilous delusions. Scars on my spirit, I am cracked by my faults. I quake with an anger for a self lost in time. My present existence in the land of mirrored metal giants is marred by recollections of a riparian paradise sublime. My blood shimmering, flecked with memories of old, carved through granite flesh by triumphant veins of California gold, searching for family, for language, for traditions. searching for something sure to bring me home. Who am I? Who remembers me? Maybe if I could speak my mother tongue, the rivers would rise to meet me. Something stirs the sediment of centuries ago. I feel the surge of spirit trapped beneath angry gravel rivers and roads. Rivers run to oceans, as do I. I stand at the ocean's end, crying to be remembered. My tears are her tears, crying to be remembered. The dolphins don't play like they used to. The otters have yet to come home, and the whales sing melancholy songs that befall deaf ears. Pa'ar, the living reflection of who we are as people, I see illness proclaimed on your very essence. Kwa'ar, let me reclaim these memories so I may be your strength and protection. Muamat ahiko, I give thanks to you still, but I am lost in translation. There's nothing to express the world that I feel. And there the wind howled, the sea burst with elation. They remember me, Muamat ahiko, my life, my relation. Salt stirred the air. Sea mist kissed me like the daughter I am. Each cell of my body became the ocean, became the sand. Each grain had a story, each current a past. I had become what I had searched for, home, here at last. I was brought onto shore by cerulean tides, born from the place where the sea meets the sky. I am a daughter of this land, so-called LA, your home. But I am from a village here, from a time not long ago. That oak has heard my prayers, heard the clapper stick beat. The rivers know my songs, the trails know my feet. I am a daughter of the soil, tended by the hands of time, nurtured and watered by a land that remembers. Maybe that is why my hair is as coarse and strong as oak tree roots, my eyes endless in darkness deep as the Pacific, and my skin, the sum of generations of sun, photosynthesizing a flesh-colored brown. Because I am California, and California is me, before California even had a name. Thank you. I want to thank UCLA and the American Indian Studies Center for having me, Pamela and Shannon for hosting, and the other amazing poets that participated today. You can find my poetry, music, and other things jewelry at my website, kellycaballero.com. And my Instagram is Kelly_Mija, Mija. I'll turn it over to Pamela. Thank you all.
Wow. I'm always in awe every time I see you young ladies perform. It's just amazing. I'm going to bring all three of you together if you can unmute yourself. I do have a couple questions for you, and then if people have any questions they want to ask, I'll open it up. I know that you've all have shared a lot about your Native history through your poetry. How are you able to sustain your identity, especially in a city like Los Angeles? What have you guys have done? I've noticed that you guys have collaborated and you've done some amazing poetry together. If you could just share a little bit about that, Megan and Kelly, and then Emily.
Yeah, me and Megan worked on a poem together, and it was kind of like a land acknowledgement introduction to Tongva, our territory, our world. And for me, that was really healing, and it was like medicine to be able to talk to another Tongva, another California Native woman, and relate on the identity of growing up in a city and being Indigenous and watching our homeland continuously being taken and destroyed. So that was wonderful, and it's moments like these that I'm really grateful for, because it can be really isolating in a city. You can feel really lonely, especially as an Indigenous person, especially as a Tongva person. Yeah, so I found that poem to be really healing, and working with other Tongva and California Native poets to be just what the soul needs.
Megan, do you? Do you
I,
want to
to-
add anything?
I totally agree. I think writing that poem with Kelly, it was, yeah, healing. It was freeing. Kelly and I live in the same city, and which is pretty densely populated. And I think, we both have this very strong connection to nature. And I think that's what sustains us. That's what allows us to live in this city because we have access to nature, or we make ourselves have access to nature. But I was just struck, like sitting down with Kelly to write this, like how easy it was. We were both just coming from the same place, and we didn't have to explain anything to each other. And I'm not used to doing that when it comes to poetry. Like, a lot of people don't understand cultural context or just certain specifics about nature. But yeah, I felt like we were just on the same wavelength, and yeah, it was awesome.
Excellent. And with Emily, kind of the same question. How are you able to sustain your identity as a Cahuilla woman in a huge environment like Southern California?
Well, for me, like I said, I don't live in a city and I never have. I've lived on or near my tribal reservation since I was 4, like I mentioned at the beginning of my reading. So I think for me, it's about being able to, obviously pre-COVID, being able to attend tribal events, even if that is like a tribal meeting or a Cahuilla event down in the desert, and just participating in a lot of the dances, a lot of the family events, and then being able to carry that with me when I do go into the city or when I do leave the reservation and say, go into the academic world at UCR, being able to obtain and sustain my Cahuilla identity and not fall into this like very general indigenous identity, because I think it's important to, stay true to your tribal customs and your tribal beliefs.
How are people able to find and learn a little bit more about your culture? If you can share like some events, some places they can visit here in Southern California.
For me, so I mean, we have like I know Singing the Birds, which I'm sure a lot of you guys know about, down in the desert. That is an event that's very popular and open to the public. I would say any of the surrounding powwows, as long as you make sure that they are open to the public, because I know there are issues. You don't want to be attending something that is private for tribal people. Also, I know my dad, Gerald Clarke, he is a visual artist and he has a lot of art shows and gallery shows throughout the SoCal area. And then also just like, I know specifically UC Riverside and a lot of the UC schools have annual powwows that are open to the public and are focused on teaching and having an environment where a lot of people can learn and educate themselves.
And Kelly, Megan, how can people find out more about the Tongva people and culture and heritage?
I get asked this question a lot, and I always have a really difficult time answering. I think that there's a website, it's through UCLA actually, Mapping Indigenous LA, and that's a great resource to see, where village sites were within Los Angeles. I think if you're interested in the Tongva language, there's a Tongva language Facebook page. There isn't really a good text or anything that I can, refer you to, unfortunately. I would say just like following Kelly. I know Jessa Calderon, she's an amazing poet and rapper, and just following Tongva folks. And we usually keep you updated on Instagram or Facebook on events that you can, I don't know, attend or just learn about our culture.
The only thing I would add is There's a really great series offered by KCET. If you do a YouTube search or a Google search, KCET Tending the Wild, it features a lot of Tongva people and California Indigenous people doing traditional work or traditional Indigenous life ways. I was also a part of that. So yeah, KCET Tending the Wild and Borderlands LA, awesome videos with good content.
Do you want to share like any of the springs or the event that they have at the aquarium?
I believe they just had the Moompatam celebration at the aquarium. I don't know where the link is or how to find it though, but
Can you explain just a little bit about that?
it's a gathering, usually, you know, pre-COVID, California nations, Tongva people, Moompatam clan would gather at the Aquarium of the Pacific. I believe last year they launched Thule boats into the harbor area. There's traditional dancing, singing, and just it's open to the general public. So I believe you can find a virtual event for that on Facebook. There still might be the recording available. Yeah.
Great. Can you let people know what you guys are doing in the next couple months, since we're falling into fall quarter where we're going to be celebrating Indigenous Peoples Day and Native American Heritage Day, and, you know, just offer some guidance to people that want to learn a little more about your culture and your heritage. We'll start with Megan, and then Emily, and then Kelly.
Yeah, I don't know like what else to add to you know, help people learn about my culture. Like, I am Tongva, but I also sometimes feel uncomfortable when asked that question just because I'm not an expert on Tongva culture either. Like, I don't know everything, and I get asked a lot of questions about Tongva culture, and it's hard to know everything and answer everything. I actually made a point to not put anything on my calendar through the end of the year because I've had a lot going on. So I think, yeah, I don't know what virtual events are coming up for Native American Heritage Month, but I'm sure I'll participate by watching.
Okay, well, we also heard that you are going to be publishing your book. If you want to just plug your
I mean, I'm working on a collection. I don't know when it's going to be published.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm going to be doing for like the rest of the year, is just hopefully finishing that up.
Okay. Do you want to just let everybody know how they can see more of your work and what you're up to? Do you have a webpage?
I do not have a web page. If you want to follow me on Instagram, it's Megan Michelle Dorame. I can put it in the chat.
Excellent. Yeah. Emily?
So in terms of finding my work, like after this, I can put it in the chat. So just my website, which is cahuillawoman.com. And then my Instagram, I often post a lot of, like, if there are any events coming up that I'm a part of or that I'm not a part of, I usually post a lot of stuff happening in Native California. In terms of like my plans for the next few months, let's see, I know in like the writer side of things, I am really trying to start my own literary journal online, just like a little site that people can submit to, and that we can accept different pieces. And that wouldn't be specifically Native, it would just be open to everybody. But I'm planning on doing that. And then I know you mentioned at the beginning of my reading, I'm a student at UC Riverside. So October 1st, I start my third year. And it's really cool because I'm being able to, so I major in creative writing, but I'm able to minor in Native American Studies. So I'm starting my third quarter of the Cahuilla language class that counts as a graduation requirement at UC Riverside. And then I'm also able right now to take a bunch of like Native American lit courses. So I'm really excited to start fall quarter and go into Native American Heritage Month, being able to just further educate myself. Oh, Pamela, you're on mute.
Sorry. Do you want to share your website and your social media?
Oh yeah, I'll put it in the chat right now.
Okay, perfect. And Kelly.
Yeah, so I am currently co-curating a virtual event in collaboration with the Ford Theater. This I will be singing and performing with my ukulele. Uh, it's called Tolvangar today. Again, it's a co-curation with Jessica Calderon, and she's an amazing Tongva Chumash, MC, poet, um, incredible artist and performer, and Kenny Ramos, who is also, I believe he's Kumiai, he's an actor, I believe a dancer. So yeah, we're creating this event highlighting California Indigenous people and also acknowledging the diaspora that brought other Indigenous people to California and how we are all influencing and creating art in today's world, modern day society. There's that, and then I will probably be also taking a break, focusing more on just writing and creativity. August and September has definitely been just a bombardment of events and Zooms and whatnot, and I'm ready to get back into the spirit of creativity and healing, and with fall equinox start to kind of quiet down and get ready for a wonderful winter, hopefully. But yeah, that's about it. You can find, again, you can follow me on Instagram, Kelly_Mija, M-I-J-A. And I will be sharing my poetry and events, and you can find out more about the Ford Theater event happening there. And yes, the Ford Theater event is going to be virtual, and we're doing pre-recording. So we're putting it together, and then it'll release sometime in November. So to keep up with me, follow me on Instagram, Kelly_Mija, where I'll be letting you guys know when that's going to happen. But other than that, thank you very much.
Okay, well, we have a couple questions. One is from Betty. She wants to know what is being done to preserve the Tongva and Cahuilla languages, especially for youth.
Well, for Tongva language, there is a Tongva language class that meets once a month. It's a very small group of people that meet to learn the language. I know Cindy Alvitre just wrote a children's book that you can get through Heyday Books, and there's it's a Tongva stories. Yeah, we don't have like a specific like program for Tongva youth to learn Tongva language, but I know that there are quite a few Tongva kids who can speak a lot better than the adults, which is awesome.
Emily, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, UC Riverside, like just recently, I think last year, started teaching Cahuilla language classes. And that's not just for like people majoring in ethnic studies or Native American studies, it's for everybody. And like I said, it does count for our graduating language requirement. So that's definitely something that's being done on more of an educational level. And then small scale, I know there are members of the tribe who are teaching virtual classes right now to speak Cahuilla and who are really working to create like workbooks, literature that can be available for our people to revitalize the language and keep it alive.
Okay, this question is for Emily. In one of your poems, I think the one that is referred to Edward Curtis, there's a line, scaled and goat eye. Could you talk about this? I really felt the whole poem, but wondered if there was more context there. I thought it was fascinating. That's from Katie.
Thank you. So basically, if you remember, like the line following that was "We are people," and so those two lines back to back was really my intention to kind of compare the fact that oftentimes Native people are not seen as people or seen as human beings or seen as even modern human beings. And so I wanted to kind of counteract the animalistic imagery with the line "We are people" in order to bring light to that issue.
Okay, great. So there's quite a few recommendations on the chat in regards to Cahuilla languages, and there's links, and oh, there's a Tongva land cleanup along the ocean this coming Sunday, September 27th from 10 to 2. So I guess we can research and find out more about that. I actually did that, I think, about 2 years ago. It's kind of like the beach cleanup. Okay, actually it's from 10 to 12. Well, this is great. I don't see any other major questions directly to you. You guys as poets. Well, I just want to say thank you so much. It was wonderful to have you, Megan, Emily, and Kelly, for being with us today and celebrating the voices of California Native voices, especially today. I hope everyone learned quite a bit. I hope people go out and search about the over 109 tribal languages that are federally recognized, and even more that are not recognized anymore. And that's due to the history of the destruction that's happened with the state of California. I don't know if there's anything else you guys want to add, Megan, Kelly, Emily? Nope. Okay, well, thank you all very much. In closing, I hope you enjoyed these cultural Zoom events offered by the UCLA American Indian Studies Center. If you wish to continue seeing work like this, please consider donating by visiting our webpage at aisc.ucla.edu. And thank you. And this concludes our Zoom event. So thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much to the poets. It was wonderful. We appreciate you.